this week, you're gonna say, you've got a prompt to talk about the spelling stage, and then one instructional activity, and then something about their sight word, and an instructional activity for that. All of you, everybody that has Harper is gonna be on the same page. Everybody that has Reagan is gonna be on the same page. So you're gonna say what you think. Your friends that have that same case study student are gonna say what they think, and you're all generating ideas for teaching that child. That's gonna become a resource for you, so when you start to write your lesson plans, you've got some brainstorming ideas there, okay? And that's also a part where, if Juliana says letter name alphabetic, and you say, no, it's within words, that's the time y'all shoot each other an email. Hey, why do you think so-and-so? And you're just kind of working that out together as a team, okay? If you've got another thing to think about is if you've got that and you're having a trouble with that, or maybe you're on your team, y'all are disagreeing, shoot me an email, copy everybody and say, hey, Dr. Coleman, can you blah, blah, blah. Because I might want to sort that out for you before I actually have time to grade everybody's stuff, okay? So, Caden, you had Caden? Y'all had Caden? What'd you think about Caden? What was his stage?
No, I'm not looking at it, I can't think what it was. It was towards the end.
Okay.
Okay. Late syllables and affixes.
Okay, so he was doing some things where he knows some prefixes, he knows some suffixes, but he doesn't know like to double the consonant before you add the ing, things like that. So probably for him, you're looking at things like inflectional endings, like taking a base word and adding that ed and the ing, things like that, okay? So for Harper, where will y'all go for finding activities for her? Or lessons, places to teach her? Where can you go in your Words Their Way book? Okay, what stage is she?
She's a letter name.
Letter name alphabetic. So you're gonna go in your Words Their Way book, exactly, there is a chapter called Letter Name Alphabetic, okay? You're gonna go right there. Same thing for y'all, you're gonna go to syllables and affixes, whatever you're gonna say there, okay? What about, who did y'all have?
Reagan.
You had Abby?
Reagan.
Reagan, anybody else have Abby? Are you the only Abby person? Okay, so what do you think about Abby?
Within word pattern, and I'd say middle, she got almost all those right, and she missed all of the late.
Okay, so maybe a lesson or two in that middle, and then moving on to the late, okay? Same thing, go to the chapter for that stage, okay, and y'all had Reagan? What'd you say about Reagan?
We said, I said letter name alphabetic early.
That's what I put.
You agree? Okay, I'm sorry, okay. All right, so that's gonna be a place y'all are gonna kind of talk about that, and here's what I would do with here, etc. Okay,
She's so cute too.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, she is so cute. And she bosses the whole street. It's hysterical. She's the teeniest one, and she is in charge. She's always telling me, Miss Tiffany, your cat Mittens is trying to eat things in my yard. I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, I can't keep Mittens inside. Yeah, I'll try not to. If she, I'm telling her mom, if she kills something, she'll bring it to my house. Y'all won't ever see it. Anyway. But she's always in charge, so. Okay, so everybody's good with your spelling stage, and you know you're gonna go to that chapter in Words Their Way, okay? You can also look in the goal 3 of Cerebello, that looking at print. There will be some things that will work in that book also. Words Their Way is your primary one, but there's also some things in there, particularly for Reagan and Harper, about things like looking all the way to the end of the word, or identifying sight words and text, things like that, okay? All right, so with spelling stage, what about their sight words? What do we know about their sight word knowledge?
I was kind of confused with Reagan, because she only said certain ones that she knew.
Okay.
So I left a lot blank.
And that's totally fine, okay? So, for those of y'all that didn't see a little person read, okay, a lot of times Reagan's in kindergarten, so I'm not at all expecting her to know that first 100 words, right? So I covered so she could only see that first column, and she did a few, and then I kind of uncovered it and said, tell me some more, what other words do you see that you know? Because I want it to be as non-threatening as possible, okay? So how many words did she know? I can't remember.
She knew 11.
Okay, 11-ish.
And one was like a non-response, cause you said, what is that one?
Okay. So with a child that's got limited sight word vocabulary like that, I know I need to work on that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be looking for some activities like building sight word. For K and 1, I'm probably wanting to do some things with manipulatives, like some magnetic letters. There are actually, y'all probably don't have magnetic letters yet, so we didn't make you buy them because you're not kids. But if you happen to see magnetic letters cheap, that's something you want. There's also a bunch of apps now. There's so much digital with online learning that look like that have that look where kids can manipulate and spell. So you might want to do a quick search of things like that you could use. I have been watching, I think I told y'all last week, Jen Jones is somebody I follow on Instagram. She's doing a lot of Jamboard with word work and letters and things like that. I still think it's super important. There's a lot of research for little people to actually touch something that is the physical shape of the letter. Okay, so I still, virtually, obviously, I'm all excited about Jamboard and all those things, but if I'm in the room with my kids or I'm at home with my own kids, I want the magnetic letters out on the fridge, whatever, that they're actually, go get those for your baby. Not yet, she'll eat them now, okay? But soon. So, super important, okay? Making them, building them, writing them. With sight words, I want to know that they know that word wherever they see it, okay? So the rule for like really knowing a sight word is, can I find it in text? Can I write it? And can I make it? Okay? You don't really know a word until you can do it all three things. Can I find it? Can I make it? Can I write it? So if I was working on sight words with a kid, I would probably say, okay, you know what? The word can is on every page in this book. I want you to turn, and you see that word can, I want you to point to it and read it to me. And then I want you to make can with magnetic letters. And then I want you on the whiteboard, we're gonna practice writing can as fast as you can. One of my favorite things when I was doing reading recovery, I don't know why this is fun, but they loved it. If I was doing, like let's say they just had a piece of paper out to practice on, and I would say, I want you to write the word can, okay? And they would, so maybe they wrote it, can, and I would say, okay, I want you to check it. Can, are you right? Yes, they check it, and I'd cover it up, and say, write it somewhere else, and they write it somewhere else and check it, and I'd cover that up too. I don't know why I like me covering it up, and then having to find another spot to write it was hysterical and all kinds of fun, but anything like that where it's constant, quick practice, okay? What about Abby? What do y'all think about sight word for? Yeah.
So she did really good, but obviously when you go to like the second one and the third one, she started to miss even more. So the first one she did good. I think she only missed 2.
Okay.
And the second one, she corrected herself a lot.
Okay.
She'll say a wrong word and she's like, no, it was this.
Okay, so that would be the first part first ones I would work on. Ones that she almost knows, like she didn't know it fast, because remember sight is like I know it like this, I don't decode it all. So those that she knows, she can fix it, those are the first ones I would do. Okay, sorry, keep going.
So yeah, she did correct herself a lot, and then on the last one I think is when she got through a lot, but she did question, or she looked and say it like a kind of slightly wrong, or
Yeah, almost like an appeal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was cute that she found it so funny, like as she was reading it like a sentence, and she
Yeah.
was like, that's so weird.
Yeah, she was trying for this development reader, she was like, well, does it make sense to say the friend, if she's reading them in a row? Yeah, very funny. So Abby actually did the most because I was anticipating she'd have a little trouble on the first and second list, but we kept on going all the way through the third. Okay. So, yeah.
Harper got pretty much majority of them, but the thing that I noticed was that when she got to like the W, she thought it was what? She said what for a lot of the W words that was
Yes.
what?
So, for those of y'all that were here last week when we were looking at Harold, remember when he spelled win, W-E-N, and then that was the only digraph he missed? That W-H is so tricky for so many kids. So, maybe that's something I would do, like maybe a word sort where they're actually, have multiple words. Put all the whats together, put all the wins together, something like that, or changing the ending on that WH. Yeah, it's a very common tricky thing. Who do we now talk about?
Caden.
Caden, talk about Caden.
Yeah, I mean, he did awesome. He self-corrected on thought. That was the only one that kind of tripped him up, and even then he got through the line, went, oh, wait, no. I went
Yeah,
back and fixed
yeah.
it.
So he went all the way through the first 300,
And I'm
right?
sitting there like trying
Yeah.
to keep up with him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And actually, had I had it, I probably should have done the 4th and 5th. I just didn't have those lists with me, because that's where our book stopped on those, okay? So he is very much, like, he's a beginning 4th grader. He knew all those words. I probably wouldn't even do sight word with him. I would be looking more at what can I do with those vocabulary, the syllables, affixes parts right here, okay? So, and we talked about all of them now, right? Y'all, I forget, because I've already done this once, so I'm like, did I say that to y'all or no? Okay, so on your Jamboard this week, sometime this week, you're gonna go to the Jamboard for your students, and you're going to say, here's what stage they are, and here's some activities, okay? Anytime this week, you wanna do that. And so going forward, anytime you're doing a discussion post or anything related to your case study, you're only responsible for responding to posts about your student, okay? Because I want you to get to know them really, really well.
Okay.
All right, so, we are going to talk about a sample case study student, to show you kind of what you're gonna do next week, or this coming week. And the main thing, I have said this before, but it really is, it's all about trends, okay? If they do something wrong or they miss something one time, I'm not so worried about that. I'm worried about if it's happening over and over. If they miss one WH word, maybe they just don't know that word, okay? But if consistently they can't read WH words, then I know I need to do some teaching on that. If they do one reversal, no big deal, okay? The other thing about reversals I should have said is, if let's say, Abby, I think, when she reversed that S, I would probably let her finish that word. If I had been teaching her and not assessing her, then I might have said something like, you know what, there's one letter in this word that really doesn't look right. Can you find it? Okay? Because if they can find it and fix it, that makes me not worry about it as much as a child who doesn't see that it's reversed. Does that make sense? So I'll typically let them finish it and then give them a prompt like, hey, there's one letter that doesn't look quite right. See if you can fix it, okay? And that's generally how I'll go with that. So if it's a reversal like that, if I saw it in sight words, think about some of the things you saw in your assessments this week. If they miss WH words, I want to be listening in the running records to see if they do those same kinds of things, okay? If you see it in their phonics and spelling and you also see it in their reading, then it's something you definitely, that's a trend that you need to go, okay, we really are struggling here, let me figure out that piece, okay? Somebody, I think it was Friday's class online, asked me about, like in your guided reading videos that y'all have been watching, where you could see that the reading was definitely stronger than the writing or vice versa, okay? And so that's common, but phonics and word work is kind of what puts those together, okay? So when you can do this word work and help kids notice, okay, I've been practicing with magnetic letters and adding that ing or the ed, they're gonna pay more closer attention than reading. So this is the piece that kind of merges those, okay? All right, in this week's module, I loaded 2 sample case study students. They're both second graders, and I put those in so you would have an example of how to do your part 2. Hang on, sorry, I guess I logged out of that by mistake. Hang on 1 second, let me pull it back up. Y'all can feel free to ask me a question while I'm doing this if you've got one. And hopefully it's not gonna ring my phone.
So for the Jamboard, we're doing what stage we found and an activity, and then we're responding.
Yeah, well, you may not need to respond, but like going forward, like you are gonna have a discussion post this week about fluency for your kids, and so you're only gonna respond to other people who did that.
Okay.
From now on, any Jamboard thing that's related to your student or your case study, you're only gonna be working on that one for your student.
Okay.
If you wanna know what another kid is doing, absolutely, but I really want you to zoom in on your case study student, okay? Alright, so in today's module, I put a ton of resources for you about the case study students. So, this is today's PowerPoint, and then you have the assessment summary form. This is what's gonna be like your cover sheet for your part 2. So you're gonna need to print that for everybody, okay? And then, I gave you 2 full case studies. They are Josiah and Chakra. So I'm gonna open Josiah right now, so you can see how it looks. Download it, it'll be easier. So this week, when you are watching your videos for your case study student, you're gonna wanna have this handy from the very beginning. And you're just gonna fill out the top, you're gonna put yourself as the teacher, and for every book that is read, you're gonna list it here, okay? System 1 or 2, you don't really have to worry about because you're not honestly gonna know because you didn't pull the books, okay? System 1, just for your reference, is the K2 kit that I remember the box that I brought in a couple weeks ago. It's the K2, and then System 2 is the 3 through 5. It doesn't matter, okay? Because I pull the books, so you don't really know. Fiction or nonfiction, I'm almost positive I labeled all the books in this file for you, but if I didn't, in the PDF of the actual book, that will be on the front cover, okay, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. You've got to know fiction or nonfiction to use the rubric to score the comprehension, okay? What level was the text? What was their accuracy rate? What their number score was on comprehension? And then you're going to check, was it independent, instructional, or hard, okay? The way that you find that, if you were here for the face-to-face last week or you watched the video, down at the bottom of this table, of that sheet, is the table. To where you say like, oh, it was 90% and they scored a 4, so that's instructional. Okay, so there's your little cheater thing on that form, okay? The other pieces are self-correction. So you've got that formula at the beginning of the page. Y'all that had Caden, I don't think the formula is on his sheet. And if it's not, then you're just putting the number, okay? Because what happens with Fountas and Pinnell is, the more proficient readers get and the older they get, the more they start doing that in their head and you don't see them or you don't hear them self-correct. Okay, so you don't, if their formula is not on your sheet, that just means they're kind of too old for that, okay? So you're just gonna put the number, so 2 or 3 or whatever.
How many times he self-corrects?
How many times he actually did it, yeah. And then fluency is what we're gonna talk about today. It's a 0 to 3 ranking of how they sound, okay? So this is your cover sheet for your assignment. And then what follows from this is just an example of how yours should look. Let me zoom in on this. Okay. So down at the bottom is just, it's a little blurb and it says behaviors to notice, teach, and support. Okay, basically, what's the big idea? If you're gonna sum up what you know about Caden or Harper or Reagan or Abby in 4 or 5 sentences, what do you know about them, okay? And that's where this goes. So this is teacher language. I'm not expecting you to own that teacher academic language yet, so don't freak out about that, okay? But the first thing she says is, meaning and structure are driving forces for Josiah as he reads. What does she mean by that? Meaning and structure are driving forces for him.
Comprehension.
Okay? So when he's reading, he's consistently using meaning and structure, which tells me that he's comprehending, right? Okay? Then she says, the use of visual information is part of his problem-solving actions, but he also often uses initial visual information. So what's he doing with visual? Is he using it as much as meaning and structure? So she says meaning and structure are driving, like that's what his go-to is meaning and structure, right? But when she says visual is part of his problem solving, he's trying it out, he's using a little bit, right? But she says, but he often uses initial visual information. If I say something is the initial, what does that mean?
coffee yet.
That's why I'm holding mine, okay? Initial is like that first thing, okay? So if they're saying like he uses the, and think about like, I think on the elementary spelling, it's listed as initial consonant, is it? Like that first letter, is it labeled initial consonant? It might be, I might be wrong. But initial is that very beginning. So what she's saying is, he's using meaning and structure. And he's using some visual, but typically only looking at the beginning, okay? Y'all won't have that academic language in your head, but can you say something like that? Like what they're typically using, and then what are they not doing enough of? Okay. Then she says, learning a variety of efficient word-solving actions will be helpful to building an effective processing system, okay? What she's saying is, he needs some strategies, okay? He needs to go, I need to learn how to use meaning, structure, and visual all together. We need to learn to look all the way through a word and check to make sure the end is correct, things like that, okay? So what she's done here is she said, here's what he's using, here's what he's using a little bit of, or he needs more work in, and then she says, he needs more strategies. You might say something like, Abby would, Abby consistently, uses meaning and structure, but she doesn't, always look through the end of the word, something like that, okay? And then you could go say, strategies for using, a variety of strategies in reading, from like goal 3 would be, you know what I mean? Like, I need to help teach her to look all the way through to the ending of the word. Things like that, just a couple of sentences. So it's like, you're out at car rider line and your kids are leaving and you run into Abby's mom and she says, how's Abby? I can really quickly say, oh my gosh, she's really good at this. She's really good at when she's reading, it makes sense and it sounds right. But she's not always looking past the first letter. Let's work on doing that. It's a quick sentence or two I can give about, here's what I know about this kid. Does that make sense? It's kind of yours. Right now, here's what I know, and this is where I'm gonna teach her. Does that make sense? Okay. She also says aspects of fluency are very important to bring under control for Josiah. Okay, so basically I need to do some fluency work. Okay, it's a really fancy way to say that. Okay. This academic language for teaching that sounds weird to you right now will be in your heads next year. Okay, you'll start just acquiring more and more of that. Okay.
Can I tell you that when I was working on a mini lesson for Dr. Green's class, it took me 2 hours just to figure out what the standard meant. I was on Facebook and all my teaching groups, I'm like, can someone just tell me what it means?
Yes.
Because I know I'm overthinking it.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that before I start this, I'm doing it
Yes,
right.
and this is where, if you were in the school, you could go to your mentor teacher and say, can you explain what this means for 2nd grade, okay? If y'all are looking at a specific strategy, I don't have a digital copy because Gwinnett County is copyrighted. Gwinnett County will not issue me a whole digital copy of it. But if y'all are struggling with a particular standard, I have a document, just because when I was in Gwinnett, I was one of the writers for 1st grade, so they still let me have a copy. But it gives you the standard as a whole, and then the standard for that grade level, and then it gives you examples of what that looks like when you're teaching. So if y'all, that's something like your mentor teachers would share with you, okay? So if you get in that bind again, if you'll text me the standard, I can quick look it up for you and take a picture of that for you, okay? Because that's called deconstructing the standard, and it is tricky, okay? So just know, if you're in that boat, we can help y'all with that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Josiah, you've got his summary sheet, you've got, the little blurb at the bottom, and then you have all of his running records following it, okay? You'll see that this person knew they were gonna be online and they were all kinds of official, okay? So they did the MSB beautifully written out and circled, okay? I don't have time for that. That's why I taught y'all just to do the tallies, okay? And when I was first a reading recovery teacher and I went to their national conference, there were actual vendors selling these little MSB stamps. So you could stamp it in that box and get it just perfect and circle. You don't have time for that, okay? So just tally. If you want to do this, fine, but I'm saying just know what the child used, okay? So you'll see The main reason you have that is to see everything is filled out, okay? Everything is scored, the miscue analysis is done. Let's look right here. See this line across here? Okay, she did 2 there. I like to do it separate because sometimes they're different, but, so what he said was, he said, I will give you a kiss, and he skipped good night, okay? She just drew a line through that, like, sometimes I will do that if I don't know if, miscue analysis is all about trying to get in their head, right? And if I really have no clue why he or she did that, sometimes I will draw a line through like that, like I just don't know. I'm not gonna spend 20 minutes trying to figure out that one thing, okay? So just, when you see that, that's why she did that, like, he didn't, use anything there, or I don't know what he did there. Okay, so you just got the whole thing, every, running record completely scored, okay? And you've got his example, and the other one, Chakra's example too. There are also 2 more summary forms filled out just as examples for you. Okay, so I don't want you, sometimes students will turn it in and something's just not completed. I just want you to see how it looks when it's perfectly done. Okay. Questions about that part? Okay. Let's see. I feel like I'm just speeding through this. Okay, this week, you read about fluency, okay? And this is taken from page 12 in your yellow assessment book. And the main summary for fluency is, I'm always wanting to know, to me, the definition of fluency is, does my reader's oral reading sound like his or her spoken language? Okay. We all have different rates of speech. Mine is super fast right now because I'm trying to get everything in for y'all. Okay, and I tend to talk pretty fast, so my reading is pretty fast. Okay, my brother-in-law is the slowest talker ever. Okay, if I was doing a running record on Chris Aycock, he'd, well, the read, you know, it's like this. That's how his oral reading would sound, and I wouldn't penalize him on fluency because it's like he speaks, okay? The main thing though is the reason fluency is important is if there are fluency issues, it can impact comprehension. If a child reads too slow, or they're having to go through and like really zoom in on each word and break it down, that's gonna impact comprehension. On the opposite side, if they read too fast and they don't notice punctuation, that impacts comprehension too. Okay. What typically people think of as a fluent reader, if you ask a child what does fluency mean, they will almost always say fast reading. Okay. I want them to read at their spoken language speed, because if it's faster, they're not focusing on the meaning. Okay. So you'll notice on the lower level running record forms, there's no place to time those readings. When you get to the older ones, like if you look at Caden's forms, you'll see a place where you could do start time and ending time, where you could record his rate. A lot of schools do that. If I was working with a student that maybe was in the RTI process, do y'all know RTI? No, okay. Okay, RTI means response to intervention, okay? And it's for those kids that aren't making progress, and I think there may be something else going on. Then I'm going to take that child, not physically, take their data, and I'm gonna meet with a team at my school, and I'm gonna refer them for an intervention. And so we're gonna say, here's what's going on with so-and-so, here's their data, and then that team will decide, okay, let's try this intervention with him or her. And then you do that intervention for 6 to 12 weeks to see if they respond to the intervention. If they respond to it, you either keep doing it or it fixes the issue and you quit, okay? If they don't respond to it, you're gonna try multiple things. And if you try multiple things and you're not getting progress, that would be when you would refer a child for testing for special ed or something like that, okay? So if I'm watching for a child and I'm maybe taking some RTI data, or I'm thinking maybe I should go that route, then I'm probably going to really zoom in on fluency and see if that's part of the issue, okay? I'm not gonna worry about this for every student, okay? So, fluency means that a child reads with speed, normal speed, accuracy, and expression. And if they're not able to do that, then I'm wondering, well, is it sight word knowledge? They just not know enough words? Or is it they don't have enough strategies for decoding, they can't do that on the run? What is it that's slowing them down, okay? So, one of the ways that we can assess it is an additional, like an optional assessment that's within your Fountas and Pinnell kit. So, I'm gonna show you that. It is called the 6 Dimensions Fluency Rubric. And you are gonna download this. This is gonna be your discussion post for this week. You're gonna download this fluency rubric and have it out while you're coding the running records for your kiddo, so you can kind of take some notes, okay? So Fountas and Pinnell look at these 6 dimensions, and they're breaking fluency down, not just as rate, not just as speed, okay? And so the first one they look at is pausing. Pausing is the way that the reader's voice is guided by punctuation. So do they pause at a comma? Do they stop at the end of a sentence? Do they notice, does their voice sound like a question when it's a question mark, okay? And so for each of these, you've got a 0 to 3 score. So like a 2, most of the reading evidence is appropriate pausing to reflect punctuation and meaning of the text. They do it most of the time. Where a 1 is like, they don't pause at all. Either the cat is running on the floor, or the cat is running on the floor. That is still not appropriate. Do you hear the difference? Okay. So pausing is the first one. And they're very deliberate in the order of these, okay? So I have not heard someone else say this, but they're deliberate in everything, and I'm interpreting that as they believe pausing is the most important, okay? The next one is phrasing, and that is the way readers put words together in groups. Is it meaningful? So do they say things like up the street, down the hill? Do they kind of chunk those words together, okay? And that's important because A, it makes it sound like their oral language, and B, it carries more meaning that way, okay? So the 2 that I'm really, really working hard to see how are they doing, particularly if they're struggling with comprehension, are going to be pausing and phrasing. Okay. The next ones are stress. So how do kids place emphasis on particular words? Do they notice bold print? Okay. Do they notice when the font in a book gets bigger and the author's wanting emphasis on that word? Do they do that? Okay. Do they, I can say to my son, wake up Luke. I can say that lots of different ways, okay? The first time I go in the room and unplug the big box fan that he has beside his bed, and unplug that and say, get up Luke, like that, right? 10 minutes later, it might be, get up Luke. You're on like emphasizing a different word. Okay, same thing. So it's, does the reader know to put emphasis on certain words? Intonation is similar. It's the tone and the pitch and the volume. Okay, I want you to think about with intonation, how much meaning this carries. Have you ever had the experience of texting someone or emailing someone and being completely misunderstood? Okay, all right. This is something we've been talking about as faculty a lot because we're not physically together. No one is seeing your expression and your genuine look of compassion or whatever it is to know like, oh, she's not being hateful, like she really is worried, or she really, you know what I mean? And so there's so much that intonation, so much of that carries meaning that if kids aren't really comprehending the story or the text, they can misinterpret that, okay? And then the 5th one is rate. That's the pace. Is it appropriate, okay? All of these 5 so far, pausing, phrasing, stress, intonation, and rate, have a 0 to 3 score, okay? When you're looking at your running records, on the benchmark assessment, you're looking at like the 0 to 3 on each one of those is this integration part. It's like how overall, all these aspects together, how are they reading? 0 to 3. So for every kid in my class, I'm gonna do the fluency score on the benchmark assessment, on that running record I'm already doing, okay? If it's kids that I'm really worried about, or they're not making progress, or something's going on, then I'm gonna do this one. I'm not doing this on everybody. Does that make sense? So your kids are your case studies, so we're gonna do it on them, okay? So I just want you to have this out. You can do this on any book, but what I would suggest is have it out and just, as you're listening in, just kind of pay attention to those things. You're gonna score it, and then do a discussion post. I haven't loaded that, I'll load that one today. And then you need to respond to, y'all are gonna talk to each other about what y'all think about Cadence, you're gonna talk about Abby, etc. Okay? All right, let me let you watch a video clip. Actually, we'll probably do 2, so y'all can see like how that scoring looks. Let's see. Okay, the first one is Socks. This is one of the books that Harper read. Those of you that have Harper.
Reading Socks, a level C fiction book. Socks.
Is it still going?
Socks
Holly?
the cat was sleeping
Yes.
in lots of different places, and the girl wanted her to wake up. Read to find out if Socks wakes up. Socks. Read to find out.
Socks was sleeping on the bed. One up, Socks eyesight. She Socks was sleeping on my couch. I said, why you socks? I said socks. He was sleeping on the couch. Said, Socks said, I said, so she was sleeping on the rug. I said, wake up, Socks. Socks was sleeping by the window. I said, Socks.
Okay, what do y'all think? What are you noticing?
She looked like she's looking at the picture to
Okay.
find the word.
Okay, so
Maybe.
on a level C, that's, like I do want her using picture cues, right? So that's part of me saying, okay, yeah, she's trying to find the meaning in the picture, so that's okay, but what's the problem? What do you think?
Sounds like she's getting stuck on the S words.
Okay, okay. How does she sound? Is she fluent? Is she pausing appropriately? Okay, it's pretty choppy, isn't it? Okay, and I would say that the problem here, like somebody in the 8 o'clock says, well, this book is too hard. Yes, it's too hard. When it's too hard, they're not gonna be fluent, right? Okay, so A, the book is too hard. She doesn't have enough words, like I would say she doesn't have enough known words that she's having to stop and figure out, right? She's also like, words that should be sight words, she's missing those, okay? So I can tell from her fluency that she's got other things going on, right? Okay, we would say, without looking at the rubric, I'm saying probably overall I would say a 1, okay? I want you to look at somebody, the different type, and I meant to do the commentary, so let me do the commentary with the next one.
What grade is it?
It doesn't tell us, but it's a level C, so I would say like either end of kindergarten, beginning of first grade. Okay, so this is Dog Stories, which was a book that, Abby read.
A level L fiction.
This book is called Dog Stories. April was reading a book about a dog who rescued a man. She decided to write a letter to her favorite author, Julia Reed. She wanted the author to write a book about her dog, Golden Boy. Read to find out what happened. Okay, when you're ready.
Dog stories. Wait, what is this? April gave three big friends. Roxy to the Rescue is the best book ever, April told Golden Boy. April was always having big ideas, and she had one right there, then and there. I'm going to write a letter to Julia Reed and tell her how much I love this book, April said. Julia Reed, her brother Scott asked. She's my favorite author, April said. All of her books are about dogs, right, Golden Boy? April finished her letter and read it out loud.
Notice that Auden is reading at a fast pace, almost too fast, and that he sounds more robotic when he starts to use his finger. He is demonstrating some smooth, expressive interpretation and appropriate stress. As it goes on, notice that he has quite a few repeats, and he sometimes points or runs his finger under the line, which may interfere with fluency.
Dog here. Your biggest fan, April Bailey. April put out a photograph of Golden Boy in the envelope along with her letter. Hey, don't get your hopes up, warned Scott. She may get a zillion letters a day. I just know Julia Reed will answer me, April said. She's a dog lover, just like me. She stuck a stamp on the envelope. It was a dog stamp, of course. Find your leash, boy, April told her dog. Let's go mail this letter. Golden Boy put his nose to the floor, sniffing. Then he dove back behind the chair. When he came back out, the missing leash was dangling from his mouth. That's my super sniffer, April said.
For the most part, Auden is interpreting the meaning with his voice. His finger gets in the way quite a bit of the time, and he seems to be hurrying. His strengths are his ability to stress words and use intonation.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right there for two reasons. One, y'all see the self-corrections right there with the 8? Okay, that just says he did it 8 times in the book. Okay, so if you don't have the formula, that's what it would look like. Okay, the next thing is, what did y'all just started laughing when he was reading? What was he doing?
Speed reading.
If I asked Auden, what does a good reader do? What do you think he's gonna say?
Reading
He's fast. I mean, I am sure Auden thinks he is knocking it out of the park, right? He's got it, okay? But you'll notice, like, he wasn't paying attention to periods, he wasn't paying attention to that, and it made a difference in the meaning, right?
Right.
Okay, so for him, they scored a 2, they marked that it was too fast, and a 2 reads primarily in 3 or 4 word phrase groups, some smooth expressive interpretation and pausing, mostly appropriate, but the kicker was that it's some pausing, right? It's not enough of like appropriate punctuation, right? Okay. So when you're scoring each of your individual Fountains and Pinnell, this is what your fluency score is going to look like, and that should equal the integration kind of on the bottom of your 6 dimensions fluency. Does that make sense? Y'all okay so far? Okay. The 8 o'clock class asked me what I would do if I had a student that wasn't paying attention to punctuation. Okay, and there's a couple of quick things that are super easy. One thing to always remember is kids always love anything with their name. Okay, makes them feel important, they love it, right? Okay, so there's somebody, y'all know Tori's in your class. Okay, she was the one who asked the question, so she got picked on. Okay, so anything you can write, like the same kind of thing, but changing the punctuation. Okay, so I've written this about Tori, So y'all read this one. What does this one say? Tori rocks.
Tori rocks.
Tori rocks.
Tori rocks.
Tori rocks, okay? Anything like that. I know the kids own these words, I just want them to zoom in on the punctuation. You can do the same thing with like an alphabet chart, okay? So like A, B, C, D, E. You hear them reading all the way through, okay? Anything like that, it's a super easy way, just right there in the moment, to get them to pay attention to that punctuation, okay? There's also a great children's book called Yo Yes. That those are the only words through the whole book, is yo and yes, and it's two kids having a conversation, and it's just changing the punctuation, and you get the meaning of the story by the whole thing, okay? So that's one good resource. Another one that I showed them this morning was, if I'm working with like K1 or 2, and I need fluency, I've done it with some third graders, they still like it, but are y'all familiar with Mo Willems' books? Like The Elephant and Piggy? Do y'all know these? Okay, so like these
Grammarly
are,
helps make your writing
sorry.
clear and concise, no matter where you are.
Let me speak
Compose a cover letter that's
anything like this, because it's mostly dialogue.
going to jump.
And so
Nothing
you can
can
even
stop
see
us.
like that when Piggy's talking, the speech bubble's pink.
It is starting
When
to rain.
Elephant's talking, the speech bubble
It
is gray,
is raining.
okay?
It is
pouring. So this is anything with dialogue helps with fluency. If
I
it's
have
an,
never
if
seen
it's
so
an
much
older
rain
child,
in my life.
I would probably just, choose a book that's appropriate for them, but have a lot of dialogue in it, okay? Another Mo Willems book that they love is anything about the pigeons. Anybody put, I don't think anybody did the pigeon in there. Children's lit, but these don't let the pigeon, ooh, hang on. Oh, let's see him do it. This is actually Mo Willems.
Really exciting. We are all going to draw one of my
Oh,
favorite
okay.
things together.
This isn't what I was looking for, but I'm gonna show you this. This is something he did during the first part of quarantine in March and April. He did a lunch with Mo or something like that, and every day he would post a little clip where he would teach kids how to draw one of his characters, and so he did that, okay? But one thing I have seen with this pigeon character is it's a great one for reading, because it's all like, don't let the pigeon drive the bus, with big font and the exclamation mark. So anything like that, it's just a fun way to get them to pay attention to that punctuation, okay? If a child is struggling with phrasing, one of the things that I like to do best about that is, and I've got myself a note to load these for y'all, but there is, Tim Rosinski is known for his work in fluency. This is the little guy, there's Tim. He used to come to Gwinnett a lot and talk to the teachers. But on his website, he's got a lot of good resources on here that are freebies. If you go down to helpful materials, he has Dr. Edward Fry's Instant Word List. Okay, that's the sight word list we were assessing with, but he's done this in phrases. So if you have a child that's not reading in phrases or is working on fluency, he's put them in phrases so that when kids practice, they're doing like, he called me. But do you see what I'm saying? Instead of, when my niece was little, she was really struggling with fluency, and I printed these off, made word cards for her, and it helped tremendously within just a time or two. If you're doing things like this and you're making flashcards, here's my little teacher trick. I like to put them in PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever. PowerPoint, I would put them and I would just put one word, super big font on a slide, okay? And then there's that setting where you can print like 8 to a page or whatever, and it makes the perfect little PowerPoint. The reason I would do that, instead of I had made them and made them and made them and made them, if you do them that way, then when a parent says, hey, I need something to work at home, you can just shoot them that file, and it's all done for you. And then I would print them on tag boards. So these, I used to have sets, and I've loaned them to somebody where it was just each one of those on a card, okay? The thing with, if you're trying to increase a child's sight word knowledge, you do not want to introduce more than maybe 5 at a time. Okay, so, when you said earlier about how she had, some that she would self-correct, I would pick those first, and those would be the ones I would do, like those 4 or 5, I would do those at one time. I'm talking about Abby, like, those would be the first ones. But you don't wanna do more than a few at a time. Another thing that they love is anything that's a game, so like if it is, the old-fashioned memory game is a good one. I would take a card, index card, and I'd write it once, and then have the kids write it on the bottom, and then cut it in half, and then that becomes the memory cards. They will take those home and play with their siblings or their parent much faster than they will actually just sit and drill cards. Okay, and I just made them like, even if they found the match, if they didn't read the word correctly, they couldn't have it. And so that's just a quick, just a couple minute practice. I think you see that in one of the guided reading videos, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Questions about sight word, phonics, let's see. Okay. Okay. All right, so what I want to talk to you about now is the book intro. And you have seen book intros in the guided reading videos, okay? But when we're doing book intro, meaning it's the first time a child has seen that book, and it's on their instructional level, meaning that they need support from you to read it, okay? I'm always trying to think about how I'm going to introduce this book to the child, including meaning and structure and visual, okay? So in that, I want to make sure the meaning is that I have given them kind of the overall story of the book in just a sentence or two. Okay, so this little book, this is a level E, and it's Father Bear Goes Fishing. I'll read it to you real quick. It says, Father Bear went fishing. He went down to the river. Where are the fish? Said Father Bear. Where are the fish? Father Bear looked up. Here come the fish, he said. Fish, shouted Father Bear. Fish, fish, fish. Where is Father Bear? Said Mother Bear. Where is Father Bear? Said Baby Bear. Mother Bear and Baby Bear went to look for Father Bear. Okay, y'all. I have had more than one child over the last couple of years that would say, Mother Bear's gonna hit him with that pan because it's late. She didn't think about it. She's got her pan, she just wanted to get some fish. But I have had lots of my children look at that and get real big eyes and say that. So, anyway. Here I come, said Father Bear. I am home. Look at the fish, said Baby Bear. A fish for Father Bear, and a fish for Mother Bear, and a fish for me, said Baby Bear. What is this whole book about?
What was that everyone?
Yes. Okay. Tori, today, I'm just picking on Tori all day long. Tori, this book is about Father Bear, and he's going fishing to get fish for dinner for Mother Bear and Baby Bear. And he's gone a long time, so Mother Bear and Baby Bear went to look for him. Okay, we got the whole thing. I haven't told them everything about the book, but that's the main idea, the gist of the book, right? So that's my meaning. For structure, I'm looking for either language structure, so like oftentimes something that's book language that doesn't match our spoken language, okay? Or it can be structure of the way it's laid out on the page. I'll show you all that in a minute, okay? But in this one, this is a level E and it's got tons of dialogue, so I'm probably gonna do some structure to kind of model that fluency there. So I would say something, and you know what? Father Bear is wondering, he can't find any fish, and he says, where are the fish? You practice saying that like a question. Where are the fish? I might even have them orally rehearse that a time or two. Okay, that would be my structure. And then my visual would be anything, a word or two that I think might be difficult, okay? We've already talked about that sometimes WH words are difficult, so I might even say, you know what? The word where is in here a lot. What letters do you expect to see at the beginning of where? And they might say W, they might say WH, okay. Let's look at, can you find it on this page? And have them frame it with their fingers or point to it, okay? Y'all have seen them do some of these things in those book intro videos, okay? So I'm thinking about meaning, structure, and visual. If I'm doing a nonfiction book, this one is a level F. So again, it's beginning first grade. What do you notice that's different about this book in terms of structure? Okay, we've got some red font, right? Some big bold text. At this level, that might be the first time they've seen that. What else is different about the font? You see this?
It's curved.
Okay, they've probably never seen that before, okay? So I might just matter-of-factly say, and you know what's really cool about the text in this book is that sometimes the word, the animal that they're talking about on this page is gonna be in big red letters because the author really wants you to notice that. And then it's gonna ask another question, and every time they ask a question, it's gonna be in this little question scoop, you know, but just very matter-of-fact, what is it that's tricky, okay? If it's an older reader, Caden is very into Dog Man and all things graphic novels, okay? So, this is one, I know that he and his dad are reading a lot of fantasy, so this might be one that I might pull for him. If I pull out a graphic novel, what's tricky about that?
Font small.
Okay, the font small, what else is tricky?
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, right? So like thinking about, what do I read first? Do I go all the way across here? Because there's not really distinction between the pages, right? Or do I go down? Do I read in columns? Which way do I read? Okay, and then on some pages, it's a mix of speech bubbles and other font. So if I'm doing a graphic novel, I'm really talking about let's talk about how this graphic novel works. Because kids, especially, now this is not the case for Caden, but a lot of readers who struggle want to read a graphic novel because it looks less threatening. And it's actually pretty tough because they've also got to really zoom in on what are the pictures telling me? That's a lot of the meaning, right? My son went through a stage like this where he was kind of, I was trying to transition him from all nonfiction into some fiction, and so I went with this. He actually, his grandparents got him there's a picture book that's like a graphic novel Bible that's like, all through that, thought it was the coolest thing ever, but it was really hard to get him to really look closely and read in order. Okay, so that would be another example of structure. This one, From Plant Seed to Plant, this one is a nonfiction book, but often if I ask kids the genre of this, they're gonna say it's fiction because it's not real pictures. A lot of times they think it has to be a photograph for it to be nonfiction. So I might talk about that, and I might talk about like the different diagrams and the labels on the diagrams. That would be structure for this one. Does that make sense? So meaning is, what's the overall kind of the main idea or how this book works? Structure is anything tricky about language structure or text structure. And visual is a word or two that I think they're gonna have trouble with, okay? Proper nouns, anything like character names, I always just include that when I'm talking about the book, like father bear, mother bear, baby bear. I'm not gonna teach them the word father, I'm just gonna include that in my language, and that usually they'll just get it, okay? What else? When I said visual, a word or two, I really mean that. If you go through and you pre-teach like 8 words, they're done, checked out before you even get them into the book, okay? If it's instructionally the right level, there shouldn't be that many words you need to teach, okay? All right, if you're comfortable, we've got about 20 more minutes. I have books out. If you're comfortable, don't grab these, those have cooties, okay? But if you grab these up here, nobody has touched those except me. Sorry, but I did hand sanitize before I put them out. If you wanna grab a book and kind of play with how you would introduce that book, I'd like for y'all to have a little bit of practice with that. If you're like, no, I've got cooties, you're welcome to sit and watch. You're welcome to, this is the end of our thing, so you're welcome to scoot if you need to scoot. Either way, do y'all wanna try? Okay, you're not in trouble if you don't wanna touch it, it's totally fine. But if y'all want to, help yourself, and I'll let y'all kind of play through that, and we'll talk through the ones that y'all have, okay? You wanna grab a book, you know? you know, so I would, it's not something I would be worried about, but I would do a lot of everything big. So, you know, writing letters in the air, maybe focusing just on the letters in his name, because his name big. Perfect. I would do just big, and I would only do the letters in big. You know, until he's got it, whether it's like big letter cards and he's putting them in order, always giving him a model, you know, like have it written out and having him match those. And then, you know, find the G, find the A, find the B, but really make it little, and I would just do his name, and then I would do something else that was meaningful to him, like maybe mom, or, you know, something like that, but only a few at a time. And don't do things that are visually similar at the same time. So don't teach a B and a D at the same time. Okay, think about what's, usually B and D, I'll try to think, is there a word that they already know that kind of is an anchor? So like if they know dad, then I will over teach D. I'll teach D, 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 and then that B and D kind of works itself out. Does that make sense? But don't do them at the same time. So. Yeah, yeah. He's actually not behind me. Actually, 3 is super early. So, I would tell her, no, he's really gonna be okay. One of my best friend, homeschooled her younger daughter, and her second, she was like, Sarah's never gonna be ready. And Sarah now is a junior and is doing an internship at the Smithsonian. She's brilliant. She just was occupied with other things and didn't want to look at print as a little bitty kid. So, I would just zoom in on that one thing that's meaningful to him, or if there's something he loves, a sibling, a pet, something, focus on just, because that'll get his interest more, and then it's just a one thing. 26 letters is too much.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
sure. You could also do lots of like matching and sorting. Like if you, I don't think I told y'all this, if y'all do a quick Google search, like words their way, letter name alphabetic, or words their way within word patterns, you will get tons and tons and tons of resources for things to do at that level. So you could even do that, like that initial letter, emergent literacy. You get tons of teaching ideas for that. Okay.
Why do they have like levels in letters and numbers?
Oh, okay, fine, question. So the conversion chart that I uploaded for y'all gives them multiple ways. Reading Recovery does them by numbers. The numbers are more precise. So, like for example, like a C is a 3 and a 4 together. So they're just much more specific. But for most kids, the alphabet letter is close enough, and you don't need that. For kids that are really struggling, I would want the number levels just to be right where they are. Most things you're typically not gonna see a number level unless it's a school that also has Reading Recovery. Like these are, the publisher on these, I think these are Rigby. Is that the publisher, or is it PM? Is that what's on the back?
Townsend?
Okay, Townsworth, okay, Town Street, okay. I forgot which, I had those out. Those, if you are at a school that doesn't have much money, or you are trying to purchase books, those are great to buy because they're good, solid books. They're only like $2 a piece. It's like, and if you search, because they've been bought out multiple times, but it's like King Street Kids or King Street Press or whatever. The other thing that's nice about them is they're one of the few emergent level texts that have diverse characters. Those are some of my favorites. They used to be $1 a book, and then they got bought out, and they went to $2, which is still, most little books like that are like $6 a piece.
That's crazy.
So those are, and you're not buying them like one, you know what I mean? Like you're typically buying like a small group set, so it'd be like $30 to $36 for a set of 6. Those, however, are like $2 a piece. But so if it's something that's like a book that's written to be like a curriculum or a resource for reading intervention or something like that, you're going to see both of those levels on them. But most things, if you're at Barnes & Noble or you're looking for a book, you're just going to see the Fountas and Pinnell level, or maybe a Lexile level, like that number level. Good question. Alright, does somebody have a book that you feel like you've got, or, if you're looking through, like you picked a book that was tricky, or you found what's tricky about the book? Anybody? You look like you picked mostly the level text, so most of those aren't too tricky. What were you gonna say, Juliana?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not really tricky, but, so the book is about them jumping rope, but when they say their names, they have it in bold, like the first letter, like if her name is Sarah, S would be in bold.
Oh.
The action that she likes to do that starts with an S also is in bold.
Oh,
So you
nice.
can point
Okay,
it
so
out.
give us an example. Can you read like a little picture?
Okay, S, my name is Sarah, I like to sing.
Okay.
So the S would be bold, and then the S in her name and the action that she likes to do is in.
Okay, awesome. I actually didn't know that book. I would, so for if I was teaching it, that would be the structure part I would teach. And look what the author does, it's so cool. They're showing you that her name starts the same way as what she likes to do. Isn't that cool? And I would just go on from there. But if I were teaching a whole class lesson, I would pull that book, and one of the most, at the end of this PowerPoint, things that we're not talking about in class today, but are just examples for you, is a lot of different word work activities, just pictures of them. And one of the things you're gonna see is a class name chart. So a lot of times I would do a class name chart, and I would write everybody's name in alphabetical order, and I will put the first letter of kids' names in a different color to make it stand out. And that would be a great book to use to teach, as I was gonna do that name chart. I'm pretty sure there's a picture of that in there for y'all to see that. Okay, somebody else, what did you notice about your book? A meaning or a structure or a visual thing you need to, I haven't given y'all tons of time.
My book has a bunch of names in it.
Okay,
Which I'm kinda interested in, cause like, this says it's for like mid first grade. So I'm
and there's a
just
lot of
curious,
names.
There's a bunch of names, so is
Okay.
that harder for?
Yes, but, if you pick these little King Street Kids or Townsend Press, a lot of those books, and you'll see this in like, book group books or like books made for small group instruction, it's kids in a series. So they've probably already seen that in a previous book, and they already know that character. Like Father Bear is in like 9 books in K through the end of first. So when I pull out a Father Bear book, they're like, oh, it's Father Bear, they're all excited. Or it's a character they know. So that happens with those books, and usually like the first time you're introducing it might just be just one of the kids in a book. So usually as you get older and there's tons of them, does that make sense? If this is, your kids don't have that background knowledge, this is the first time, then I would go through and I'd say, okay, and you know what, the kids in this book are, here's Tomas, what can you find, let's find his name in the book. I would do that if it was a cold, I've never seen these kids before. Okay, somebody else.
Visual, you said, in one word, like repetitive, that should be the.
Okay, could be anything you think is gonna be tricky, so what was the word in that book?
So, and this book, they mentioned children a lot, so like in every sentence, the children.
Yeah,
the children.
yeah. What would our kids typically say when they were speaking? Would they say children, or would they say something else? Kids, okay, so that would be another reason that I would say, you know what, in this book, they say the children, and I might even do something like, and the language I will usually use is, what letters do you expect to see, okay? And so you're kind of prompting them that just that subtle, what do you expect to see is cluing them, like it's your job to look at that first part, right? And I might even say, you know what, it's children, and it starts like Cheerios. Geez, I'm trying to think of what things they know. Cheerios, Cheetos, okay, things like that. They know that part. I'm always trying, if it's something new, just a rule of thumb, if you're trying to teach them something new, you always want to try to ground it in something they know. Make a link to some prior knowledge, okay? So with initial sounds, you were asking me about your little people in preschool. When I was a reading recovery teacher, one of the first things we do with kids when we're working on letter knowledge is make them an individual alphabet book, okay? And so we would do that. You'd only make that letter page when I was teaching that letter, okay? I wouldn't give them the whole A to Z, because if you're new, that's too much, okay? Not too much for like if I was reading to my niece or nephew, that's fine, right? But if I really want to see if they know it, so if I was doing, a child, I would first start with like the letters in their name, if they know their name. And I might, so if it starts with a T, I might do the T page, okay? And I might even, okay, I might make the T, and I might say, you know what, your name, Tori, starts with T. Let's draw a picture of you and add that. So on that alphabet page, I'm putting something that's meaningful to them, okay? So if you think about, like, if you're looking at an alphabet chart, a lot of times, G is like gate or garden, or something that they may or may not, I don't know what a gate is, so that doesn't help me know G. So if you can ground it in something they know, okay, that's always will help them remember better. And then you can also remember, like when they're trying to come up with something, if they're trying to get to that S sound, you say, oh, you remember, it's like Sarah, like your sister, you know, or going back to that class name chart, oh, his name starts with the H sound like Holly, okay? So just always, what's something they know that I can connect it to, okay? Thank you for that, was good. Anybody else? Okay. If you want more work on that, you're like, what did she just say? If you want more work in the guided reading videos, you can click like just on book intro. So if you want to see more of those, you can open up any of those guided readings and just watch the book intro. And I think like now that we've talked about meaning, structure, and visual, if you clicked on it, you would hear it. You'd be able to pick out which ones are meaning, structure, and visual. Okay. Let me show you how your case study students look. So, in our course, there's a separate module for part 2. And so it says October 5th, case study students and fluency. No, it doesn't, that's not what I want, that's where we were. Virtual case study resources part 2. And it's organized like part 1 was. So you're gonna go to the part for your student. Okay, so the first one is Harper. You have all the things for Harper, and it looks like a million things. It is a million things, I know, because I'm just dizzy and making good use of my highlighter to make sure y'all had everything. So like the links are the actual videos of your child reading, okay? When it says, like just the title of the book and a PDF, that is the book, okay? So you'll need to actually read that book, just clicking through it before you do the assessment. And then the next thing that you're gonna see is where it says recording form. So when you get that, that's the part that you need to print to do, okay? There are a couple of people, I don't know if I told y'all this yet or not, but there are a couple of friends on here. I think out of all of the Blue Million videos I shot, there were 3 that have gone to live somewhere else. They are missing in action somewhere, okay? So, wrong one. So I've told you that when I get to them, so hang on. So like for example, Abby says, unfortunately 2 of the videos did not work. So on Abby's, that was before I learned that if I got a notification, my phone would shut off. Or if I went to low power, it shut off the video, and I didn't know that, okay? So there's 2 here that you don't have the video sheet of, but you do have my recording where I took the running record, okay? I didn't score it, but I did the running record, so you'll just print that out and do the scoring. Does that make sense? There's one for Caden as well. One of his didn't show up. But the same thing, you've got my recording sheet, okay? So your job this weekend for part 2 is to finish up that piece for your student and complete the assessment summary form, scan all those things, and upload it into the Dropbox, okay? I am not, if you interpret something differently than I did, if you score something differently than I did, I'm not like going through and saying, oh, well, I said 9 errors and she only has 8. I'm not doing that, okay? I'm looking to see how you've done it, and I'm gonna give you feedback like, hey, you know, think about this in this comprehension score, or something like that, okay?
Thank you.
Where you definitely will lose points is if it's not complete, okay? So if you don't bother to fill out the top or find what, if it's instructional, independent, or hard, that's when I'll start taking points off, okay? So the main thing is like, make sure that assessment summary sheet looks really good. You've got, it's all complete, you kind of come up with a, you know, what you tell mom today about your K-State student, okay? Next week, I told you all about the Jamboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you look at that, you'll see the same type format on your student about this. So if you want to, like, when you have your assessment summary form done, that's gonna be the kind of thing you need to post on that Jamboard. So if you wanna have this and then go, okay, let me quick do the Jamboard post, it's not due till next week, but it's already there if you wanna go ahead and add that piece while you're working, okay? What else?
So is the assessment summary form the only thing that we turn in?
No,
or
thank
we-
you turn, that's your cover sheet. I want the, how you scored them attached to it too, okay? It's not a got you, it's really just so I can make sure you are interpreting it right, okay? What we'll do after these, like in 2 weeks, you'll have a paper due where you're talking about, here's what I know about my readers so far. And it's based on everything we've done this week with your spelling and sight words and this. You're gonna put in that in paper form. And we'll talk about that, the requirements for that for next week, okay? Okay. All right, questions? Yeah.
Do you want us to print out the last page of the recording?
Oh, where it says, like, thank you, that last page is a writing assessment that we're not doing, so that'll save you some printer ink there. I hate buying printer ink, I don't know how y'all feel about that. Cause sometimes it's as expensive as my printer. And I think y'all, if you're on campus, I'm pretty sure y'all can print here. If you don't have a printer, I think you can, there's some printer access in the library, I believe, so double check on that, okay? There shouldn't really be anything moving forward that there's a lot of printing for you. This is like the big thing where there's printing, okay? Anything else? All right, we're good.
Just wanna make sure I have everything.
You wanna wrap
Rather than bother everybody else pointing different.
Go for it, you're not the only one wondering.
So we're doing the assessment summary form, which is our cover sheet,
Mm-hmm,
and then we're also turning in the running record with it.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, where you recorded the form, or if you had mine, like if you have Abby and Katie, you're missing one, turn in mine, because I didn't do the MSV and all that for you.
Okay.
Okay. And if y'all are the first ones to see this, I have cross-checked it, Dr. Eichholt and Dr. Green have cross-checked it, but we are tired of looking at all these files, so we could have missed something. So if you get in there and you're like, oh, I don't have this for Kaden, let me know real quick and shoot to me an email so that I can quickly upload whatever is missing. I don't think there's anything, but I am not perfect, so there could be, okay?
Assessment summary form, running record, is there anything else that we're including with that? That we're turning in, just those two things?
All
that we-
all the scanned running records, and that is the cover sheet.
Okay.
Yep, yep. All right. Anything else? Okay, have a great week. Let me know if y'all need anything. If you will just, like, if you have a little book, if you'll put it over here for me, that would be great. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for watching the video for me.